Last time I reached the Mountain of Thunder only to be spotted by an enormous eagle guardian diving straight toward me with murder in its eyes. They say no one has ever stolen from a god and lived to tell the tale. They were about to be wrong. "Stop, thief!" screeched the eagle. "No one approaches the Thunder God's mountain uninvited." Heart-pounding, I ran in a zigzag pattern across the open ground, searching desperately for cover. "I'm not a thief," I called back, dodging behind a boulder. "I only want to talk to Perkūnas." The eagle laughed, a harsh sound like stones grinding together. "The Thunder God doesn't talk to foxes. Turn back now or you'll never see your forest again." For a moment I considered doing just that. The eagle was right. Who was I to think I could face a god? But then I remembered the chickadee shivering in the bitter cold, and the badger mother weeping for her lost child. "I can't turn back," I said, more to myself than to the eagle. And with a sudden burst of speed, I darted from my hiding place and ran straight up the mountainside. The eagle shrieked in anger and gave chase. Its great wings created gusts of wind that nearly knocked me off my feet. Twice, the talons came so close that they snagged my fur, but I was quick and clever. I used every rock and tree as shelter, changing direction unpredictably until at last I spotted a narrow crevice in the rock face ahead. With a final desperate leap, I dove into the opening. It was barely wide enough for my body, and I scraped my sides painfully as I squeezed through. Behind me, the eagle screamed in frustration, too large to follow. "The Thunder God will know you're coming, fox." Its voice echoed through the crevice. "You cannot hide from his eyes." I didn't waste breath replying. I pushed forward through the narrow passage until suddenly it widened into a small cave. Exhausted, I collapsed onto the cold stone floor, my sides heaving. That was too close, I panted. Outside, I could hear the storm growing stronger. The wind howled like a pack of wolves, and thunder rolled across the sky. The Thunder God indeed knew I was coming, but I had come too far to turn back now. After resting, I explored the cave and found that it continued deeper into the mountain. With no other choice, I followed the winding tunnel upward. "I'm coming, Thunder God," I whispered. Ready or not, the tunnel seemed to go on forever, sometimes so narrow that I had to wriggle through on my belly, other times opening into chambers filled with strange glowing crystals that cast eerie shadows on the walls. The deeper I went, the warmer the air became. Not the gentle warmth of spring sunshine, but something more powerful and ancient. The fire must be close, I thought, my heart beating faster with excitement and fear. After what felt like hours of climbing, I began to hear a sound, a deep rhythmic booming like the heartbeat of the mountain itself. With each boom, the ground beneath my paws trembled slightly. The tunnel suddenly opened into an enormous cavern, so vast that I couldn't see the far walls or ceiling. And there, in the center of the chamber, was a sight that made me freeze in awe. Stretched out on a bed of clouds lay the Thunder God himself. Perkūnas was immense, larger than the oldest oak tree, larger even than the houses in the human village. His beard flowed like storm clouds down his chest, moving and shifting with its own inner lightning. His skin seemed made of weathered stone, etched with lines like riverbeds. And beside his enormous hand lay the legendary hammer, the tool that struck lightning across the sky. But what caught my attention most was the hammer's head. It pulsed with living fire, not the red-orange flames that humans tended in their hearths, but something more primal. This fire shifted through all colours, deep blues, vibrant purples, blazing golds, and at its heart, a white so bright it hurt to look at directly. For a long moment I simply stared, forgetting my mission in the wonder of the sight before me. Then carefully I crept forward. The Thunder God appeared to be sleeping, his massive chest rising and falling with those thunderous sounds I had heard earlier. "I just need a little spark," I whispered to myself. "Just enough to bring back to the forest." Step by cautious step I approached the hammer. The air grew warmer with each pace forward until it felt like high summer around me. Sweat dampened my fur, but still I crept closer. At last I stood beside the glowing hammer. Up close, the fire within it was even more beautiful, alive somehow, dancing and swirling as if it could see me and was curious about this small visitor. I looked from the hammer to the sleeping god and back again. I couldn't possibly lift the hammer, it was bigger than I was, but maybe, just maybe, taking a deep breath, I turned around and gently brushed my bushy tail against the hammer's fiery head. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then I felt it, a strange tingling sensation as a tiny spark jumped from the hammer to my tail. The spark didn't hurt, instead it felt wonderfully warm, like sunlight concentrated into a single point. Delighted, I prepared to sweep my tail across the hammer again to capture more fire. But before I could move, a sound like a mountain splitting in two shattered the silence of the cavern. "Thief!" roared Perkūnas, his eyes flying open. They glowed like twin suns, fixed directly on me. "Who dares to steal my fire?" The thunder god sat up, causing the entire mountain to shake. Clouds billowed around him as he reached for his hammer, lightning crackling between his massive fingers. I didn't wait to explain. With my tail now glowing with a single precious spark, I turned and ran faster than I had ever run before. Behind me, the thunder god's roar shook loose stones from the ceiling. "You cannot escape, little fox. My lightning finds all thieves." I didn't look back. I raced through the tunnel, the light from my tail casting wild shadows that seemed to chase me. The ground beneath my paws trembled with the thunder god's fury. When I burst out of the cave into the open air, the entire mountain was alive with storm. Lightning forked across the black sky, striking so close that I could smell the scorched air. Thunder boomed continuously, and the wind howled with a voice that seemed to call my name. "I'm sorry," I cried out as I bounded down the steep slope, slipping and sliding in my haste. "I'm only borrowing it. The forest needs fire." Whether the thunder god heard or cared about my explanation, I couldn't tell. All I knew was that I had to get back to the forest before the spark went out, or before Perkūnas's lightning found its mark. Down the mountain I ran, my paws barely touching the ground. The storm pursued me like a living thing, lightning striking ever closer. Once, a bolt hit so near that it threw me off my feet, sending me tumbling through the snow. But each time I fell, I quickly checked my tail. The precious spark still glowed, protected somehow by my thick fur. As I ran, a strange thing happened. The spark began to grow, feeding on the air around it until my entire tail glowed with beautiful fire that didn't burn me but streamed behind me like a banner. Where my paws touched the snow, small patches melted, leaving a trail of tiny pools that quickly refroze. Night was falling, and I had reached the barren plains between the mountain and my forest. Lightning still pursued me, striking closer and closer with each flash. I could feel the thunder god's rage in every rumble of thunder, but I could also feel something else. The warmth of the fire spreading through me, giving me strength I didn't know I possessed. Just as I crested a rise, the most massive lightning bolt yet split the sky directly above me. "Return what you have stolen, fox!" boomed the voice of Perkūnas himself, shaking the very ground beneath my paws.